You're listening to Full Circle Weekly News of the open source community presented by Full Circle Magazine. These articles are compiled by Eric the Unready, and I'm your host, Moss Bliss. This is episode 478, covering week 33, August 10th to 16th, 2020. The Retransmission Project is developing a fork of Transmission. Charles Kerr, the project's key developer, contributed the majority of changes, and Yat Ho, the third largest committer, joined the fork. The reason cited for the fork was to resolve a conflict between maintainers over the advisability of adding new maintainers. The Meson 1.12.0 build system has been released. It is used to build projects such as Xorg Server, Mesa, QEMU, LightTPD, Systemd, GStreamer, Wayland GNOME, and GTK. Meson is written in Python and licensed under the Apache 2.0 license. The key development goal of Meson is to ensure a high build speed with convenience and ease of use. Cross-compilation and building are supported on Linux, Illumos/Solaris, FreeBSD, NetBSD, DragonflyBSD, Haiku, macOS, and Windows using GCC, Clang, Visual Studio, and other compilers. Projects can be built in various programming languages including C, C++, Fortran, Java, D, and Rust. Incremental build mode is supported, which rebuilds only components directly related to changes made since the previous build. Meson can be used to create repeatable builds where running the build in different environments results in the generation of completely identical executable files. The developers of the Linux Mint distribution have published updated ISO images featuring an updated Linux kernel. For Linux Mint 22.3, which shipped with kernel 6.14, a hardware enablement update has been published featuring kernel 7.0, ported from Ubuntu 26.04 and prepared for inclusion in Ubuntu 24.04.5 LTS. The publication of such interim ISO image updates is expected to resolve issues users are experiencing with support for new hardware amid the extension of the release cycle and the decision to publish the next Linux Mint release in late December 2026 rather than early September. The stable release of the Mojo 1.0 programming language is out, marking the stabilization of the language and the implementation of all core features. This release is considered ready for widespread use and allows developers to begin developing large projects without fear of breaking compatibility. The platform includes the components necessary for developing applications in the Mojo language, including a compiler, runtime, an interactive REPL shell for building and running programs, a debugger, a Visual Studio Code editor add-on with input auto-completion, code formatting and syntax highlighting, and a Jupyter integration module for building and running Mojo notebooks. The Mojo standard library is open-sourced under the Apache 2.0 license with an LLVM project exclusion, allowing mixing with GPLv2 licensed code. The compiler is planned to be open-sourced once the internal architecture is stabilized. QEMU 11.1.0 has been released. QEMU allows you to run a program built for one hardware platform on a system with a completely different architecture. In QEMU virtualization mode, code execution performance in an isolated environment is close to that of the native system due to direct instruction execution on the CPU and the use of the Xen hypervisor, the KVM module in Linux, or the NVMM module in NetBSD. The project was originally created by Fabrice Bellard to enable the execution of Linux executables built for the x86 platform on non-x86 architectures. Support for full emulation has been added for 14 hardware architectures, and the number of emulated hardware devices exceeds 400. Over 3,200 changes from 285 developers were made. Manjaro Linux 26.1, a novice-focused distribution based on Arch Linux, has been released. The distribution features a simplified and user-friendly installation process, automatic hardware detection, and support for installing the necessary drivers. Manjaro is available as live builds with the KDE, GNOME, and XFCE environments designed for the x86-64 architecture and various ARM-based boards. Budgie, Cinnamon, Deepin, LXQT, and i3 builds are also being developed with community support. Manjaro uses its own Boxit repository management tool modeled after Git. The repository is maintained using a rolling update system but with an additional stabilization phase. In addition to its own repository, it supports the AUR. The distribution includes a graphical installer and a graphical interface for system configuration. rsync 3.5.0, a file synchronization and backup utility that minimizes traffic by incrementally copying changes, has been released. SSH, RSH, or the proprietary rsync protocol can be used as transport. Anonymous rsync servers are supported, making them ideal for mirror synchronization. The project's code is licensed under the GPLv3 license. This version is notable for its security enhancements and 33 vulnerability fixes, most of which were identified during an audit of file path handling and protocol implementation. One vulnerability was rated as critical, 17 as high, and 15 as medium. The QMMP Music Player version 2.4 has been released. The player features two interfaces, a simple interface using standard elements, and a classic interface that replicates the Winamp interface. OSS4, FreeBSD, ALSA, Linux, Pulse Audio, Jack, Qt Multimedia, IceCast, WaveOut Win32, DirectSound Win32, and Wasapi Win32 can be used for audio output. The code is written in C++ using the Qt library and is distributed on the GPLv2 license. Ready-to-use packages are available for Ubuntu. ShardScript 0.5, an embeddable, strongly typed scripting language with a C-like syntax, has been released. The language focuses on expressive high-level constructs and ease of integration. The release includes an interpreter, an updated standard library, officially supported third-party modules, and a prototype LSP server for Windows. The ShardScript implementation is written in C++ and distributed under the Apache 2.0 license. Binary builds are available for Windows and Linux. The language features include static typing with type inference, C-like syntax, support for generics, enumerations, and functional data processing chains, and a standard library with functions for working with the file system, input-output, data structures, dates, and serialization. The systemd project developers have begun fixing a long-standing architectural issue in the systemd journal D component that causes the amount of data written to disk to be significantly higher than the actual volume of logs. In March 2020, a report was filed in the bug tracking system demonstrating that generating approximately 500 kilobytes of text logs resulted in over 700 megabytes of physical write operations on SSDs. The systemd developers flatly denied the issue, responding with a "you don't understand how file systems work" stance, refusing to conduct profiling, and closing the ticket with a verdict of not actionable. The developers' comments garnered hundreds of downvotes from users, but the project's stance remained unwavering. In early 2026, a second issue report was submitted, during which independent developer ValDicSS performed detailed profiling using isolated cgroup and loop devices, clearly demonstrating the mechanism by which the issue occurs. Due to the use of memory-mapped files and binary hash tables, writing even a single 750-byte text message results in modification of memory fingerprints, causing a full 4 kilobyte page to be flushed to disk and generating between 50 kilobytes in ext4 or 110 kilobytes Btrfs of resulting I/O at the block device level. The Omarchy 4.0 distribution has been released. The project is being developed with David Heinemeier Hansson, who is attempting to create his own ideal Linux environment in accordance with the omakase computing principle, which assumes that most users don't know exactly what they want when they first start out, and it's better for them to avoid the hassle of choosing and instead use a toolkit prepared by someone whose expertise and taste they trust. The project's work is distributed under the MIT license. Epic Games is working to bring official Linux platform support to its Epic Games Store PC game distribution service. No release date has been announced for the Linux version, only that Linux support will be coming soon, but not in the next preview version. It is claimed that implementing Linux support goes beyond porting the launcher and involves tighter integration with the platform. Currently, to access games on the Epic Games Store, Linux users must use third-party launchers such as Heroic Games, which downloads Windows builds and runs them through Wine and Proton. A general resolution vote has been announced for developers on the use of large language models and AI tools in Debian development. Votes will be accepted until August 28th. Approximately 1,000 developers involved in package maintenance and supporting the Debian infrastructure are eligible to vote. You've been listening to Full Circle Weekly News. For more details, see the next issue of the magazine at fullcirclemagazine.org or check the links in the show notes. You can contact me at bardmoss@pm.me. I'll be back next week.